Very close. Make sure we got everything right. What is going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome you guys to Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. I'm so excited to have you guys here. I'm your host, of course, Anthony Denmark, founder of BecomingJD, where our goal, you guys, our purpose, is to empower and also to provide you guys with the resources that you need to successfully navigate your journey. We've been so blessed to have so many amazing guests come on from so many different walks of life, from so many different experiences to share their journeys and also to drop gems to help you guys learn how to navigate your own journey. So, as we continue this series every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central CST, I want you guys to let us know where it is where you're viewing our session from. Of course, I'm holding it down in St. Louis, Missouri. It's not the place where I want to be. It's the place where God has me. So where it is that you're viewing our session from. As our room fills up, I want you guys to make sure that you utilize the space to get the questions that you want to get answered as you navigate this journey. All right, you guys. So I'm very excited about the guest that we have coming on, Attorney Whitney. When I tell you that this sis is phenomenal, this sis is one of one, I ain't lying, y'all. And so she's already ready. And I want you guys to let us know where we're viewing our session from, so we can go ahead and begin this process of educating and empowering and helping you guys on this journey. What's going on, Tiff? What's going on, Juliet? What's going on, Ola? What's going on, Reggie? And what's going on, Attorney Whitney? What's good? How we doing today, sis?
Blessed and highly favored. How are you?
Oh, I am so blessed. I am so excited to be able to have you on. I'm really looking forward to an opportunity to explore so many things. Because when I told them in the captions, I said, sis is one of one, I was not lying. I remember looking at your page and I was like, wow, she's really getting at something. And she's really taking on the challenge of being able to not just empower herself, but also learning how to empower others. But let's go ahead and get the official titles out of the way and allow you to give a formal introduction of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, sis.
Oh, well, thank you. And I just appreciate you. You know, I've told you this, of the beautiful community that you've created. You're helping so many people. So thank you for pouring in all the love and everything into the community. But for me, my name's Whitney Harvey, as you know. I'm an attorney. I have also gotten into mindset coaching. I do some consulting with legal organizations as well, and speaking. So I've taken on this approach to just taking care of the profession, taking care of the people coming into the profession, and making sure, most importantly, that we stay in the profession and don't leave. So that's why it's a big passion of mine. I want to help everybody, find their lane, find their path, and stick to it. Just cultivate that. So that's my goal, and I love partnering with people like you that care about the people. So thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, of course, one of the things I feel like is in your lawyer journey, one of the things that ends up happening is we end up normalizing stress, normalizing anxiety, and as that continues to build up, it becomes something that's very, very toxic. And you was like, enough with that narcotic. All right, we're not about to normalize this ish. I had to normalize it. You had to normalize. But why do we have to normalize it? So, sis, how did you get into this space? Because you are literally navigating, creating a space that at some point maybe did not even exist before.
Yeah, it was crickets in the beginning with this messaging. It wasn't, always well received, but I feel so encouraged that more people are talking about it. So for me personally, I've been in, various work environments. I started off big firm, big law, went into in-house, for an insurance company. Then I went, smaller and more mid-sized firms. So I've been around in the community, and I just have seen, unfortunate circumstances where people's needs weren't being met, or they felt isolated, they felt really stressed out, and because it was normalized, there really wasn't the space to vocalize their experiences. And that was me too at a certain point in my career. And especially during the pandemic, being at home was a comfort for me, but it was also a lot of isolation. So when it was time to come back to work, I felt a lot of social anxiety.
Yeah.
And I really didn't feel like I had the support. And so it was around that messaging and me feeling like I was going through it on my own. I found a lot of connection through social media, and I started having to kind of climb my way out of it because it was something I had never experienced. I had never had social anxiety before this whole time in my career. And through the pandemic, I recognized that was a traumatic experience for us, but no one was really calling it that. So I felt like something was wrong with me, but I started having conversations with other people one-on-one and realized that it wasn't just me. It's just that no one was comfortable really expressing it vocally.
Right. I guess one of the things, and for you guys to just join us on with attorney Whitney, I think one of the things that's oftentimes phenomenal is that this phrase of self-care. I felt like self-care kind of became like this vogue word after, we watched Insecure. And we talked about the self-care Sundays, it's a me day. But literally when we think about our journey, literally of becoming a lawyer, one of the things I tell people is about us learning ourselves. And in that process of learning ourselves, whenever we feel anxiety, whenever we feel stress, and no matter where you are in your journey, you guys, this is something that we all go through. We have to either, one, learn how to manage it, or either two, it becomes something that becomes almost like something that eventually becomes so big and ends up forcing us to pay attention.
Yeah, so true. I love that you mentioned that it's completely normal. Like, it's our body's way of trying to protect us. If we feel we're in threat, anxiety creeps up.
Right.
So that could be any new experience or unfamiliar territory, which is the process of being a lawyer. But it's also really exciting. So we want to be able to expand our capacity to handle things, because we're going to always be in transition, growing, expanding, up leveling, but we have to have the coping strategies and the tools to be able to handle all of that success. Because for a lot of us, it might not have been what we've had in the past. We might not have a lot of people around us at this current part of our journey and understanding where we're at. So we have to be able to build community, but also have our own personal tools that we can reach into to help us navigate, different times.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I love about our community, sis, and now you're part of the tribe, you're part of the cookout, you're part of the family, is we have people at all different parts. We have people who either one are prepping for the LSAT, people either two, one L's that just finished their first memo. You remember those things way back in the day. Or, you're a person right now who's graduated from law school and you're literally preparing for the bar, or a person who's retaking the bar, got that one last chance. Otherwise, some jobs say, hey, give you 2 chances. After that, bye. So what are some things that they could do to try to help manage and cope with that anxiety? Because like you said, you can't ignore it. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that everybody is on different, tracks, different journeys.
Yeah.
And some people, for instance, even some people already know they are very anxious. They have a history with anxiety. So
Me?
already, so for that, they might already have been in therapy. They might already, need to be on anxiety medication. And I think that's where it's an opportunity to really talk about, not feeling guilt or shame around whatever even your past experience has been with anxiety. So just if you already are on that journey, making sure that you stay on top of your appointments, making sure that, you don't put that on the back burner when you start practicing or when you start law school, because those are the things you're going to end up putting on the back burner your entire career. And you're only as strong as yourself. So making sure you prioritize that self-care, but if you're already on that path, staying with that. If it's something that arises for you that's new, there's additional things to do. I love journaling. That was something I did a lot of as a young lawyer. Where I think there was a greater opportunity for it to be effective for me was to have guided journaling. So I was just free writing and then having no resolution, having no action around it,
Wow.
and feeling Sunday blues, feeling stuck, instead of being like, take one step. And that's where guided journaling is really been, I've seen that utilized in a very effective way to get you into action, and then incorporating some more mindfulness techniques like breath work. I do breath work facilitation, but all around action, taking action, because that's where we avoid a lot of times, and we feel stressed because we're procrastinating. So as soon as we take one step, then that stress level goes down, then that procrastination starts to subside. But we get stuck a lot of times and don't know how to move and where to go next.
Right. Cause I was listening. I was reading. I posted something in our stories, and it was just like one of the biggest steps it talked about is the first thing that you have to go. And you guys out there is first own the anxiety, acknowledge that it exists, and that sounds so easy, but boy, that is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard. A lot of times we don't recognize this anxiety, or we have an issue with the term anxiety. A lot of us don't want to subscribe to any diagnosis or feel like, we're going to be scrutinized because we have a condition. But I would encourage everyone to just look at it from a different perspective of not a disorder necessarily, but it's a response. Our body responds to new environments, new circumstances, and that's fine. That's completely normal for us to feel a little nervous or a little bit of anticipation around something new, a new chapter in our lives. Even if it's a good thing, we
Yeah.
can still feel those things. So I would just encourage people to notice where things are changing slightly in their lives. Sometimes we don't view it as anxiety, but
Yeah.
it could be sleeplessness, like maybe your sleeping patterns have changed. Maybe you notice you're up, 2 a.m. every night, waking up at 2 a.m. and you're like, this is different for me. So paying attention to even our sleeping, our eating patterns, those are usually cues that, something might be off, and not in a bad way, like something's wrong with us, but just that we need to recalibrate and get some additional tools in our toolkit.
Awesome. And so one of the things I always love to talk to you, everyone, about when we have our guests on is to find out about your story. I think oftentimes when people see us on social media, they see the finished product. So they assume that, oh man, Whitney had it all figured out. It was easy for her. She don't understand because she had it rough like me. And we just sit there, of course, internally and laugh and say, if they only knew.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to tell, one of the things I ask you guys off at first is I ask you guys, when did you first fall in love with law? Give it a lot of brown sugar vibes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. First fell in love with law. Honestly, I was in the fifth grade,
Wow.
and one of my best friends, so I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm in Phoenix now, but I was a Midwesterner like
This
you.
went from cold to hot, like
Mm,
extremes. What?
real extreme. And, but one of my best friends in fifth grade, her dad was a traffic court judge. And I had never really known any attorneys, certainly not any judges. And we took a school field trip to see him in action. And we just kind of sat there and watched him do his thing. And it was just, to me, I just loved that. I loved seeing, I guess, the structure, the prestige. That was something exciting to me. And then I loved their family dynamic. So in my mind, I always associated the law and him being a judge with this like family dynamic, almost like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air kind of thing. Like, ooh, this is nice.
Yeah.
And I think that was my initial love for it. Maybe it wasn't the right, like I wasn't viewing it as the actual day to day, but I just enjoyed that sense of peace it seemed they have. And then from there, I really got curious about it and took, criminal justice classes in high school and did mock trials and just really I've always been really curious. So I enjoyed that process of cross-examining and getting to the bottom of things and, just making people answer, questions. And so I enjoyed that process of trial advocacy and just really explored it through high school and then undergraduate as well.
One of the things that's so amazing, and everybody that I hear share their stories, myself included, is oftentimes these seeds of law get planted at such an early young age. And after that, it just kind of just grows inside of us, and to the point where it becomes, even though it's hard, even though it's something, let's be honest, to some degree, it makes no sense. Why am I doing this? This is so hard. There are so many easier things to do. Why am I doing this? Why am I not going out? But it's something about that initial feeling that keeps us going on that journey. Now, one of the things I always love to ask is, it's like, on this journey, I tell people, we learn about who we are. And we learn about who we are because this journey forces us to make some changes. And so I want you to tell me about that biggest challenge that you had on your journey. It could be at any stage.
Mm. Biggest challenges. I think for me, it was the journey to authenticity. Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's heavy, but I think, at going into law school, I didn't realize, because in law school, I really didn't do study groups. I didn't do cliques. I was kind of by myself. I was cool with everybody, but I knew I studied well by myself.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't like to get in a group and hear different. I'm like, y'all gonna throw me off on my studying. I'm not listening to that.
Not about your life.
Yes, but there is a little bit of isolation around that because they were forming groups and looking after each other and, having that studying together. So I did miss out on that. At the time, though, I thought it was self-preservation and protecting myself, and it was. But I think there would have been space for both to exist. And I think that was something that consistently followed me in my career path, was keeping this protection of myself, my energy, but also socializing, also not having a wall up or a guard up, and also feeling free to be myself in different legal work environments. And so I think there is space to, of course, be professional and be your higher self in this role, but to also keep your authentic self. And I don't think you need to sacrifice your authentic self to be your higher self, if that makes sense.
That's deep. And to a degree, like, the thing is about finding yourself and being comfortable with the fact that who you are is unique. Who you are is you, and accepting that. And I think at times, especially in this space where I feel like in the legal field, everything is so cookie cutter. Oftentimes, you feel by being your authentic self that it either one is going to cause you to miss out on opportunities or cause you to kind of almost be viewed as a rebel. And so I think one of the things I think is kind of amazing, since just think about it, right? I feel like the pandemic has forced so many people to really kind of view themselves and make changes. And what I found has been so amazing is so many of you amazing lawyers, literally, when the pandemic happened, it triggered a shift where you either won by choice or by force. Was like, hold on, what am I going to do with my life? And is what I'm doing in my life something that makes me fulfilled? So how did the pandemic really kind of shift you into this new space that you're in?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because for the pandemic, that was such a pivotal moment in my career, because I had been going from place to place thinking that, things were getting better, things were improving for me, but there still was a little bit of a void where I felt like I'm called to do even more beyond practice. There's more, like community building, something more I'm supposed to be doing. But I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't really know a lot of people doing things differently. And I think through the pandemic, I started seeing people really step into these niche practices, doing things like practicing here. I'm going to do some speaking, I'm going to do some teaching, and really making it work. And I think that was the first time I really found and believed I could do it. Because I'd seen some other people dabble in it, but I never thought I could. And having that representation is important. All you need to do is see one person do it, and you can do it. And that for me was a game changer. I decided I wanted to go back to school. I know that's a lot for some people. I wanted to pursue my PhD. I always wanted to, but never it was never feasible before because I'm a trial attorney. I didn't want to do a 7-year program, but it just worked out through the pandemic. I found a 4-year program all online, and I just restructured my life around it because I knew I wanted to expand. And so the pandemic was so pivotal for me of feeling those nudges through the years, but it wasn't the right timing. And I think a lot of times we can know that there's something new, change coming, but we have to wait for the right time. Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that happened with the pandemic, it forced a lot of us to be able to just take that step, and it really makes you evaluate yourself and be like, okay, I got to leap, I got to jump, I got to bet on me, and it don't matter what anybody else thinks. And I think for a lot of people out there, one of the biggest challenges they battle on this journey, I think when you think about the bar, when you think about license, when you think about finals, all those barriers that we have to go through, I think something that's more challenging than anything that we have to overcome is self-doubt. And I want you to tell me about like your battle with self-doubt. But I know there's some people right now listening who's definitely going through their own battle with self-doubt, and they can learn to see what they can do to try to learn how to navigate that space.
Yeah. The funny thing, honestly, is I didn't realize for a while that I was doubting myself because I was kind of putting on so much that I almost faked myself out.
Wow.
But yeah, I realize that now. But when I look back at it, I see that I had doubt the whole time because when I would even go to take depositions, some attorneys love depositions, taking them and having all the attention on them. And I got so nervous. I would lose sleep the night before a deposition. Now, defending one was fun to me because that's,
Oh, I'm about to get back. Let's go.
Right. But taking one, you're carrying that whole, 4-hour process. And I realized I had a lot of doubt because, first of all, just culturally, I didn't feel comfortable getting in people's business. So it almost felt counterintuitive to my job where I have to dig into your business. And I was trained and taught not to do that. So almost, have cultural values going against the role I'm supposed to do. And I had to reconcile that. It took me realizing, look, I'm here to do a job on behalf of my client. This other person either inserted themselves into the legal process or they're in it because of, something against my client. So not viewing it as me being nosy or, getting in someone's business, but I need to get to the bottom of this to help advocate for my client's best interest. That sounds like a simple switch, but it took me maybe 8 or 9 years to get there. And it was switching from the defense side to the plaintiff side that helped me make that connection.
Wow, that's amazing. And one of the things that I know right now that there's a lot of students who are trying to figure out, hopefully we've given them some helpful tools in learning how to deal with anxiety. And I mean, y'all, this is right here. She had the whole Arizona Bar Association on doing amazing things. And I want you to be able to share some of the strategies and techniques that maybe some of the young bucks who are young in their journey could be able to utilize and apply to help them. Because I'll be honest with you, when I said you're saving lives, we all know that our profession is, up there when it comes to suicide rates, dropout rates, alcoholism, all the isms that are negative, somehow lawyers are up there. And so, but you're saving lives. And I think it would be amazing to be able to find ways to be able to apply those same strategies to some of these youngins out there who are in the early stages of their journey.
Yeah. No, well, and thank you for even saying that. I appreciate that. It is a it's a difficult road. It can be when you're advocating for change. Sometimes, it takes people time to get behind it. So I appreciate your encouragement. But I would say mentorship, major. I had a lot of great mentors in the law and out. And I think that's where sometimes we think we only need mentors that are lawyers or judges, and those are great mentors. But we need to diversify our portfolio. We need to diversify our mentors because there's going to be people pouring into us in different industries, different places in our lives. Maybe it's somebody from church, maybe it's someone at the school you're at, maybe someone in your family. We need a multifaceted approach. And beyond that, though, we need to start getting comfortable with listening to our own voice. So you have mentors, they're going to give you a lot of knowledge and not a lot of expertise, which is an accelerator. Where there can be a disconnect is we just take in all of this and we do nothing. So we got to find, like, it can be overwhelming. So just find 1, 2, 3 tips you can take from your team, your mentorship team, and apply that and just do it step by step. You don't have to do everything in one day. I think that's where a lot of times we feel overwhelmed because we expect our lives to look like something based on the mentors that we're talking to. And they've had sometimes 20, 30, 40 years experience working at that. So we can't assume that we're going to get that in 4 weeks. So just having compassion with ourselves is major.
The Instagram/social media effect, people are taking frames and they make thinking that either one is easy to be achieved, and all hard work that comes with it. And I think so one of the things that I used to often say in our stories is stop scrolling and start applying. So I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Let me save it as a bookmark. Let me save it. But literally, we're in the save and store, but not really applying the help. And I think also one of the things that you really touched on, and I know one of the things that I kind of went through, and I think something that people need to understand the value of asking for help. I know that that was something that I struggled with. That's probably why I got dismissed from law school the first time, because I was like, I got this. I was smart enough. They let me into school, so I'm straight. But I want you to tell me a little about your journey when it came to you learning the power of asking for help, because sometimes people need to understand, okay, judge, you're just not gonna know it for the moment, but you'll be ready for it later.
Yeah. I feel really fortunate at my first firm. I had a really great mentor that had his own struggles with mental health and had taken some time off of work before I got there. And so he was very compassionate to new lawyers, young lawyers. And he, sat me down one of our first meetings and said, look, you're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. 95% of the mistakes we can fix. He's like, another 5%, we'll make it up. And, fortunately, I never had a mistake I couldn't recover from. But I think that gave me such a sense of relief as a young lawyer, as a young Black female attorney coming into this predominantly white firm, to feel like you can make mistakes. Mistakes is feedback, it's information, it's learning. And of course, we're not striving for mistakes, but me knowing that I could be a human being and I had a mentor and person I worked for that already told me, he's like, we've all made mistakes, was a game changer for me. And having that at the beginning of my career is something that even when I worked with people, administrators, work with paralegals, so I always wanted to impart that as well, because there's a lot of fear around mistakes and then people don't want to bring the mistake to you and try to hide it. It's like, no, let me know as soon as possible. And there's no backlash, there's no beating people down. It's let's figure out the solution and move forward, because that can be really paralyzing to try to hold that and keep that to yourself. I think I lost your sound. There you go.
You said a mistake is a what?
Oh, a mistake is feedback.
I love it.
It's information. Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at it like that, it's this opportunity for you to be like, oh, well, I made a mistake. This is something I could learn from. This is something I could grow from. This is something that I could be able to utilize as a step for to be able to move in a different space. And I think oftentimes when we become less hard on ourselves about the fact that, hey, we're entering into this space, a lot of us are entering this space as first gens, not knowing where we're going, not knowing what we're doing. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And if you make a mistake, you know what? It's going to be okay. And I think oftentimes, especially what I said to my brown and black queens and kings is that, we oftentimes battle this insecurity of thinking that we have to be perfect. Because if we're not perfect, then, we're going to find ourselves vulnerable. But literally, one of the things that's oftentimes refreshing is realizing that a lot of people, we're all in the same space. But where it comes to comfort is in being comfortable enough to say, hey, I need help. And I know I struggle with that a lot. And I learned the value of asking for help. And so one of the things I always like doing on our show is I love you getting an opportunity to speak to people directly. Because right now there's people who are struggling. There's people battling self-doubt. There's people who are really, have some people who are saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to quit. Literally, other people saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait till next year. Or, you know what, this is a sign from God that I need to do something else. No, it's just really a sign that you need to grow. And I want you to give an opportunity. I know we don't like to take them to church, but we take them to church every Wednesday, sis. I want to give you an opportunity to give some people some motivating words of encouragement that they could be able to carry with them, because I really hit my own soul and help me being able to get the motivation I need to push forward and move forward.
Yeah. I love that. That's what it's about. We all need to be refueled and inspiration, empowerment, just staying encouraged. We got to do that weekly, daily. I think a lot of times we think, I feel good this week, and then you put off you put it away, and then you wait until you feel really low to get back into some sort of inspiration. That's too late. We need to be staying inspired daily, whether we're feeling good or bad. But I will say this. I think that a lot of times we forget all of the things we've overcome. We forget the skill set we've built in life and our experiences. So coming into the legal realm is a new world, but we still have our history of what we've overcome, what we've endured, and how we've empowered ourselves through it. So I love helping people connect the dots, like looking back at your past and looking at the thread of empowerment, looking at what you've overcome. And there's usually a theme around it of these set of experiences, or this core experience that has shaped us and made us who we are. It's strengthened us. And I think it's pulling that into where we're going in the legal field, in the law. And when we can connect up where we've been, we know I can handle anything else coming on my path, because look at what I've overcome.
I mean, that's beautiful. It's just like almost what you're saying, sis. It's like, I'm just here to remind you, you may not be where you want to go, but have you looked to see how far you came?
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember how far back you were? Do you remember that struggle? You remember that challenge? Do you remember that thing that you didn't overlook because now you hyper-focused on this new challenge? Yeah. And that's just amazing, sis. And I hope that people out there could really, really be able to touch base and realize the power that you have. And understanding that literally, every challenge is literally put in space to grow you, not to break you.
Yes. Every challenge is an opportunity. It took me time to realize that, but any challenge I've gone through has just made me better. And I can use that, it's like a tactic for me to use to get what I want. I can use the art of persuasion now because I had to advocate for compensation for myself. I can self-promote now because I had to demonstrate to people my value, what I contributed. So those are challenges I had, and there's stories around that. But now I can walk into spaces and get what I want, So
it's almost
it's
like,
good to.
I need to remind myself of who I am, humbly.
Yeah. Yes.
I am not my struggle. I am not my struggle. And the thing that's so amazing is how quickly we forget. So many people are, struggling just to get into law school. And then they get into law school, yes! And then they're in law school and they're like, oh my God, this is so hard. And it's just like every step is a growth process, and it's a challenge meant to grow us. And since I want to take this time to thank you so much for sharing your story and tell our reader, tell us out there how they could be able to follow you and where they could be able to reach out to you. Because I think, you know, one of the things that's oftentimes is getting a chance to share stories, inspire, and being able to touch base.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love this conversation. I'll come back anytime because I just think this is helpful, even for me as I'm processing my journey. But you can find me on the Self Coach Lawyer on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn for Whitney Harvey. I do a lot of organizational events. I'm getting into law schools, doing more in firms. So if you're at a place and you want me to come in and speak to, you know, your class or to your group, Black Law Students Association, whatever it is, please reach out. I would love to come. I'd love to support you. So yeah, let me know. I'd love to be back. And thank you again for having me.
And yo, I'm gonna call people out because I do it in all love. Listen, fam, we have another amazing sister-in-law who's now part of this community. Now is not the time to be shy. If you're going through challenges, if you're having experiences, reach out. This is has done it all. Big law, working solo practitioner, been the head of both sides of the aisle. Utilize this as an opportunity. Now is not the time to be scared. You are not alone in this journey. For so many of us, we kind of were alone because we didn't know anybody else out there. But we've created this space for you guys to be able to have people to reach out to. She's not going to curse you out if you reach out to her. She's going to talk to you. And listen, we are all here to help you. We're all here to grow our profession. We're all here to help because in growing our profession, we're also impacting our community at large. And we're so blessed to have you to be a part of our community. Thank you so much, Whitney, for joining us. To my future lawyers, to my current lawyers, to my bar takers out there, continue to fight, pray. We're praying for you and we're rooting for you. Thank you so much, Whitney, for joining us tonight. I'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank you for having
Thanks, Whitney.
me.